Okay, so first thing we're gonna do is take our pre-cut pieces of material. You see there's two pieces, they're doubled over each other. And I'm gonna use a thicker setting. It's actually this number 14 one right here to do this, since it's gonna be where the most stretch is gonna happen out on the mask. So we're doing the long side first. All we're doing is following the lines that we drew onto the material. So you want to bring that right to where the other line is at, and then lock it in. Once that's done, go ahead and cut that piece. Get rid of it. Now we're going to do these two folds here, which Sarah already pre-ironed in for me to make it easier. I'm going to start at the first line, go to the second line. Now you don't really have to use this same stitch here. It's more just cosmetic. And we'll lock that one in. So you can see on my piece of cloth here, Sarah used the tracing tool from the other side and went across it, and that put little divots in here. If you can see those, it might be kind of hard to see on the camera. But we're gonna do the same thing with this one, using those as our guidelines. And as you can see, all right, so we're gonna do our second one now. So there's our first part of the mask. So now we're gonna do the other side. And then we did these so that they're reversible. We're gonna unfold it, do our folds. You can see I'm using the side here as my guide to keep the line straight. Now the reason you want to be careful about not going too far over the end of the line is because we're gonna end up cutting that excess material off. And if you go too far over, you'll end up cutting your knot back out. So now that we've got both of these pieces made, it's time to trim it. So I keep my trash can here just to make it easier for cleanup. We're gonna get rid of the excess. I like to leave about a 1/16 of an inch past the string lines so that it doesn't accidentally cut into them or come unraveled or anything like that. And we're going to go ahead and trim up all these strings. Save us the step later. Just remember, when you get to the fold part, you got strings on the inside and outside. All right, so now we have our cleaned up two sides. So first thing we're gonna do is take one of the masks and flip it so that what will be the outside when we're finished is facing us. And then we're gonna put that face down on the table. Now we're gonna take the other half and we're gonna take that same outside, which is the pretty side, and make it face the other pretty side. Of course, it helps if you put them in the same direction. Oh, I forgot a step. I showed you this on the other one, but forgot to trim off the excess. If you don't trim it off, it causes it to bunch up when the two masks come together. So, all done now. Let's lay this back out. We'll take our other mask piece and set it on the top. And then usually what I'll do is get the two ends and push the end together so that the two pieces are jutted up against each other. And if you want, you can pin it together at this point. Next, I line up my ends so that there's not too much overlap. I mean, I'm sure if we were trying to go for perfect, we wouldn't want any overlap at the end, but it'll be okay. So now I'm gonna go back to just a basic straight stitch, which is this one right here. Now I like to start mine at the very beginning so that I don't end up getting a frayed edge. So as you get close to this edge, you want to stretch your material out. So some people like to stop there. I'm going to go straight over it because I feel like that gives a little more reinforcement to that center stitch. And you can see I'm following that line that Sarah made for me earlier with the tracing tool. And at the end, we're going to lock it off. And we'll cut that piece off. We're gonna flip it around. Now if you have trouble seeing your tracing tool, sometimes you'll be able to flip it over and you can see it on the other side. Like this one here, it's a lot easier to see it on the blue material. So I'm just gonna turn my mask over and do the exact same thing again. All right, so sometimes this gets pinched up like this. Usually you can just roll it back just a little bit, loosen it, drop it back down. So that didn't work out too well for us. Okay, here we go. Once you get here, you want to make sure you've got this pulled tight. and pushed in on the inside. So now we're going to trim off all this excess on the edges and clean up all of our strings that we've got hanging off from where we started and stopped. When you're cutting here, try not to cut the end of your stitch, just because that's where your knots are at. Same thing on this side. All right, so now we're going to flip our mask inside right, just by pulling it through the end. Now this end is the same place that you could either put in a filter, or if you need a snugger fitting mask, you can actually slide one of the surgical masks directly through it. So once I've got it all pulled apart, made it look, this is what you're going to end up with. And then normally I hand this off to Sarah and she'll go and iron it because it makes the next step a lot easier, as well as cleaning this up. Now, thanks to the magic of Sarah video, I've already got another one that's been ironed. So what we're going to do is I'm going to pull this piece off of the sewing machine because it makes it a little easier for me. And I've got two 14-inch pieces of elastic. So what we're going to do here, now we're still using the straight stitch at the moment, so we got to change that back over to one of the stitches that are a little more strengthened. Like I said, I like to use the one that's on this machine, number 14, partly because I like the way that it looks, but also I feel like it'll be a good strong stitch. So that has secured in that end of this. Now let's go ahead and do this other side. Remember, you want to make sure that all your strings are pulled to the back, otherwise they'll knot up on you. I'm going to slide this one in the exact same way. Now, usually when you're doing this stitch, your needle is shifted over, so you want to line that up with the left side of your strap. All right, so that's what we end up with. So now we're going to flip it around. And this is why I took that bottom piece off. It just makes this part so much easier. All right, so we'll make sure our strings are pushed to the back to start with, off over to the side over here. And we're gonna slide that through, come through a little extra to give yourself enough room. And then put your string through there, or your strap through, and then slide it back in. Lock it down, lining the left side up again, and start our stitch. Over to the far side out of our way, so now we can do the other inner. So we're going to get our string set up first, make sure that this is nice and flat so it's not twisted when somebody goes to wear it, because we all know that's annoying as hell. lining it up. So my alignment's a little off. So you'll notice that this one is a little bit shorter than the other one, so I'm actually going to line it up on the back side so that it's as far over. Because when I stitch this piece in, it is also going to seal up this edge. So we're lined up there, latched in. And now we just trim up all the strings. Now this here is where it caught on me a little while ago. We just need to trim that off. It's not pretty. If we were worried about pretty, and we would pull it all out and do it again. But we're more worried about making enough mask. So somebody's gonna get an ugly mask.
The other ones are pretty.
Most of them turn out really well. So this is one of the medium masks. I find it's a little too small for me, but it fits Sarah well. The original pattern I got called this the actual size for men, but I'm thinking whoever made that original one had really small faces.
But we're including a pattern that includes this medium one, and then we enlarged it for a large, and it's the two outer circles on the pattern that we'll include in this post. Use those.
So that's a finished medium mask. There we go. All done.